I found out my husband was my childhood bully. Should I leave him? The box was dusty, forgotten in my mother's attic for 20 years. Take whatever you want, she said as she prepared to downsize. Otherwise, it's all going to Goodwill. I didn't expect to find anything important, just childhood mementos and forgotten toys. I certainly didn't expect to find the truth that would shatter my entire life. The little pink diary with its broken lock was tucked beneath stacks of school artwork and participation ribbons. I remembered it immediately, the Christmas gift from my grandmother when I was 9. For 1 year, I wrote in it faithfully, documenting the trials and tribulations of 4th grade with deadly seriousness. I smiled as I flipped through the pages, amused by my childish handwriting and the dramatic declarations about best friends and favorite teachers. Then I turned to an entry from October and my blood ran cold. Jacob made me eat dirt today. He said if I didn't, he would cut off my ponytail with scissors. I did it and everyone laughed. I hate him more than anyone in the world. Jacob, my husband, the father of my children. I frantically flipped through more pages, my hands shaking. Jacob called me Piggy again. The whole bus heard. Jacob told everyone not to play with me at recess. I sat alone by the fence. Mom said I can switch schools after Christmas break. I'm never telling anyone about Jacob. I'm going to forget he exists. And I had forgotten completely. I'd blocked out most of my 4th grade year, remembering only that I'd switched schools mid-year because of bullying issues. The specific incidents, the name of my tormentor, all of it had been buried deep in my subconscious. Until now. I sat in my mother's attic, diary clutched in my trembling hands, as the implications crashed over me in nauseating waves. Jacob Thomas, my husband of 10 years, the man who kissed me goodbye this morning and reminded me to pick up milk on the way home, was the same Jacob Thomas who had made my childhood a living hell. It didn't seem possible. My Jacob was kind, gentle, always the first to defend the underdog. Just last month, he'd confronted a man who was berating a teenage cashier at the grocery store. No one deserves to be spoken to that way, he'd told me afterward. But the diary didn't lie. The entries were too specific, too raw with the child's genuine pain. I searched my memory for any hint that Jacob had recognized me when we met in our 20s. We'd both grown up in the same small town, but attended different high schools. When we were introduced at a mutual friend's barbecue, there had been no flash of recognition in his eyes, no hesitation in his smile. We'd started dating, fallen in love, built a life together, all while this secret connection lay dormant. Had he known? Had he always known? Was our entire relationship built on some twisted game only he understood? I drove home in a daze, the diary hidden in my purse. Our house looked exactly as I'd left it that morning, sunlight streaming through the kitchen windows, my children's artwork plastered across the refrigerator, Jacob's coffee mug still sitting in the sink. How could everything look so normal when nothing would ever be normal again? I called my sister. Christine, I need you to pick up the kids from school and keep them tonight. What's wrong? Concern filled her voice. I never asked for last-minute childcare. I just need to deal with something, please. She agreed, no further questions asked. That's the kind of relationship we have, built on trust and the certainty that we'll be there for each other without hesitation. Unlike my marriage, apparently, which was suddenly revealed to be founded on either a massive coincidence or a horrifying deception. I spent the afternoon in a tailspin of emotion, alternating between disbelief, rage, and heartbreak. I reread the diary entries until I had them memorized, searching for any detail that might exonerate Jacob, any hint that this was all a misunderstanding. But with each reading, I only became more certain. I pulled out our wedding album, studied Jacob's face in photos spanning our relationship. Had he ever slipped, ever revealed that he knew exactly who I was when we met? I couldn't find any evidence, but that almost made it worse. How good of an actor was he, to hide something like this for 10 years? By the time I heard his key in the lock, I had worked myself into a state of barely controlled fury. Hey babe, he called, the same greeting he'd used for a decade. Where are the kids? At Christine's, my voice sounded strange, detached. He appeared in the living room doorway, his expression shifting from casual to concerned as he took in my appearance. I hadn't cried, but I must have looked as wrecked as I felt. What's wrong? He moved toward me. Don't. I held up a hand, stopping him in his tracks. Don't come near me. His face registered confusion, then alarm. Megan, what happened? Is everyone okay? Are the kids all right? The kids are fine. I stood up, needing to be on equal footing for this confrontation. I need to ask you something and I need you to tell me the truth. Of course, he said, looking bewildered. What is it? Did you go to Ridgeview Elementary? His brow furrowed at the apparent non sequitur. Yeah, until 5th grade. Then we moved across town. Why? Do you remember a girl in your class named Megan Campbell? He thought for a moment, then shook his head. I don't think so. It was a big school. Why are you asking about elementary school? I stared at him, searching his face for any hint of deception. But all I saw was genuine confusion. You really don't remember me? You? You weren't. Understanding dawned slowly on his face. Wait, were you at Ridgeview too? Were we in the same class? Instead of answering, I reached for my purse and pulled out the diary. I opened it to one of the entries and handed it to him, watching his face carefully as he read. The color drained from his expression. He looked up at me, then back down at the diary, turning pages with increasing agitation. This is about me? His voice was barely audible. I did these things? You tell me. Did you bully a girl named Megan Campbell so badly that she had to switch schools? Did you make her eat dirt on the playground? Did you call her Piggy in front of the entire bus? He looked physically ill, sinking down onto the couch with the diary still clutched in his hands. I don't specifically remember, but God, Megan, I was a terror in elementary school. My parents were divorcing, my dad had just gone to jail for fraud, my mom was drinking. It was a bad time. I acted out, I was cruel to a lot of kids. So, you're saying it could have been me? You just don't remember one way or the other. The rage was building again, eclipsing the small part of me that registered his obvious distress. I'm saying I was a different person then, a broken kid taking his pain out on others, and yes, based on this, he gestured with the diary, it seems very likely that I hurt you terribly, but Megan, you have to believe me, I had no idea. When we met, I didn't recognize you at all. How convenient. It's the truth. His voice cracked. Look at me, you know me better than anyone in the world. Would I be capable of maintaining that kind of deception for 10 years? Would I do that to you? To anyone? I wanted to say yes, to accuse him of exactly that kind of elaborate cruelty, but the man before me, the man I'd built a life with, shared children with, trusted with my most vulnerable self, I couldn't reconcile him with the monster in my diary. I don't know what to believe, I said honestly. I don't know who you are anymore. I'm the same man I was yesterday and 10 years ago when we met. He set the diary aside and leaned forward, not touching me but desperately trying to connect. I'm not that child anymore, Megan. I got help. After 5th grade, after we moved, my mother finally got sober. I started seeing a therapist. I learned to manage my anger, to understand the consequences of my actions. And you never once, in all our years together, thought to mention that you were a vicious bully as a child? He flinched at the description but didn't deny it. It's not something I'm proud of. It's a part of my life I've tried to leave behind, to atone for. Why would I bring it up? Because it affected me, my voice rose. It affected me so deeply that I blocked it out completely. Do you know what that kind of trauma does to a child? Do you have any idea what it's like to discover that the person I trusted most in the world once used that trust to hurt me? I didn't know it was you, he repeated, his eyes glistening. I swear on our children's lives, Megan. I didn't know. I wanted to believe him. Part of me did believe him, but another part, the part still reeling from the shock of discovery, couldn't let go of the suspicion that this was all too convenient, too coincidental. I need space, I said finally. I can't look at you right now without seeing that boy, without feeling like that scared little girl again. He nodded, tears now flowing freely. I understand. I'll stay at Mark's tonight, take all the time you need, but Megan, please, don't throw away our whole life together because of who I was at 9 years old. I've spent 25 years trying to be better than that person. After he left, I sat alone in our living room, surrounded by evidence of our shared life. Photos of our wedding, our children's births, family vacations, 10 years of memories that now felt tainted, viewed through this new lens of suspicion. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jacob's face, not as my husband, but as the sneering boy from my forgotten nightmares. I remembered more now, details that hadn't been recorded in the diary but that came flooding back once the mental dam was broken. The time he put gum in my hair, the Valentine's Day card everyone signed except him, his pointed refusal making me cry in the bathroom. But I also remembered more recent moments. Jacob teaching our 7-year-old daughter to stand up for a classmate being teased. Jacob volunteering at the youth center, working specifically with troubled boys from broken homes. Jacob holding me after my father's funeral, his strength the only thing keeping me upright. Could people really change that much? Could the same person capable of tormenting a vulnerable child grow into a man of such genuine compassion and integrity? I spent the next week in a fog, going through the motions for our children's sake. Jacob stayed away as requested, calling only to speak to the kids, giving me the space I'd demanded. His absence created its own kind of pain, a hollowness in our home that felt almost as wrong as his presence would have. 7 days after my discovery, I found myself in the office of Dr. Simmons, the therapist I'd seen briefly after our second child was born. "People do change, Megan," she said after I'd explained the situation, "especially from childhood to adulthood. The brain itself is still developing, particularly the parts responsible for empathy and impulse control. But completely? Can someone go from being a bully to being—" I struggled to find the words, "to being the man Jacob is now?" "The transformation is not only possible, it's actually quite common," she explained. "Many adults who were bullies as children grow up to be deeply empathetic, precisely because they come to understand the harm they caused and commit to being different. The real question is not whether Jacob could have changed, but whether you can reconcile the boy he was with the man you know." "I don't know," I admitted. "Every time I think about him now, I feel this panic, like I'm 9 years old again, powerless and afraid." "That's a trauma response," she nodded. "Finding out your husband was once your bully has reopened those childhood wounds. The question is whether healing those wounds has to mean ending your marriage." I left her office with more questions than answers, but one thing had become clear. I couldn't make any decisions while still in the grip of that initial shock and betrayal. I needed to talk to Jacob, really talk to him, outside the heightened emotions of that first confrontation. I called and asked him to meet me at a coffee shop, neutral territory away from our home and children. He looked terrible when he arrived, clearly not sleeping, his usual confidence replaced by a hesitant vulnerability I'd rarely seen. He sat across from me, hands wrapped around his coffee cup as if anchoring himself. "Thank you for meeting me," he said quietly. "I've been thinking about all of this," I began, trying to understand how I feel, what I want. "And I realized there's something I need to know first." He nodded, waiting. "Are you sorry, not just generally sorry that you were a bully, but specifically sorry for what you did to me, even though you don't remember the details?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "I'm horrified by what I read in your diary, by what you've told me. The thought that I caused you that kind of pain makes me sick. I would do anything to go back and change it." I studied his face, the genuine remorse evident in every line. "Then I have a second question," I continued. "If our positions were reversed, if you discovered I had bullied you as a child, what would you do? Would you leave?" He considered this seriously before answering. "I want to say no, that I would forgive you instantly because I know who you are now. But honestly, I'd be devastated. I'd question everything, just like you're doing. I'd wonder if I ever really knew you." His honesty loosened something tight in my chest. This was the Jacob I knew, thoughtful and unflinchingly true even when a comfortable lie would be easier. But he continued, "I'd also have to acknowledge that who you were at 9 isn't who you are at 35. I'd have to weigh 10 years of marriage, 3 children, thousands of moments of kindness and integrity against something you did as a troubled child. And I hope that I would choose to forgive, not forget, but forgive, because the alternative would be to let the worst version of you define our entire relationship when I know that's not who you really are." We talked for hours that day, peeling back layers of hurt and misunderstanding. Jacob shared more about his childhood, about the therapy that had helped him transform his anger into compassion. I shared how his bullying had affected me, the insecurities that had followed me into adulthood without me even realizing their source. It wasn't an easy conversation. There were tears, accusations, moments of profound discomfort, but there was also honesty, the kind that can only exist between two people who have built a decade of trust. At the end, I still didn't have a definitive answer about our future, but I did have clarity about one thing. The man sitting across from me was not the boy from my diary. Whether I could fully separate them in my heart remained to be seen. 2 months have passed since I found that diary. Jacob and I are in therapy, both individually and as a couple. Some days are harder than others. Sometimes I look at him and still see flashes of that sneering fourth grader. But more often now, I see my husband, the father of my children, the man who has spent 25 years becoming someone better than his worst self. We're taking it day by day. He's back home, sleeping in our bed, helping with homework, and making breakfast on Sunday mornings. Our children, blissfully unaware of the earthquake that nearly destroyed their family, continue to thrive in the environment of love and security we've always provided. Last night, Jacob found me in our bedroom, looking through the diary again. The entries still hurt to read, but differently now, with a sense of distance and perspective I didn't have 2 months ago. "What are you thinking?" he asked softly, sitting beside me but not touching, still careful about respecting my boundaries. "I'm thinking about forgiveness," I said honestly. "Not just forgiving you, but forgiving that little girl for believing she deserved what happened to her, for being too ashamed to tell anyone the full truth." He nodded, understanding. "You didn't deserve any of it, and I'm so sorry I was the one who made you feel that way." I looked at him, really looked at him, letting myself see all of him at once, the flawed boy he had been, the devoted husband he had become, the complex, imperfect, fundamentally good man I had married. "I don't know if I'll ever completely forget," I told him, "but I think I'm choosing to forgive, to believe that people can change, that the past doesn't have to define our future." He took my hand then, the first time I'd allowed that kind of contact since my discovery. "Thank you," he said simply. "I promise. I'll spend the rest of our lives proving you made the right choice." I don't know what the future holds for us. Healing isn't linear. Forgiveness isn't a one-time decision, but a practice renewed each day. There will be setbacks, moments when the past reasserts itself, and I have to consciously choose trust over fear. But I do know this: the boy who tormented me is not the man I married. Both versions are true, both are part of Jacob's story. And now they're part of our story, a complex tapestry of harm and healing, past and present, interwoven in ways I never could have imagined. Should I leave him? 2 months ago, in the grip of shock and betrayal, I thought the answer was obviously yes. Now I understand there is no obvious answer, no perfect solution that doesn't require sacrifice and courage and faith. For today, I'm choosing to stay. I'm choosing to believe that who we become matters more than who we once were. I'm choosing to trust that the love we've built over 10 years is stronger than the pain inflicted in one terrible year of childhood. Tomorrow, I'll make that choice again, and the day after that, one day at a time, rebuilding what was broken, creating something new from the pieces of our shared past. Because in the end, don't we all deserve the chance to be more than our worst mistakes? Don't we all hope to be loved not despite our history, but with it, all of it, the darkness and the light together, making us wholly, imperfectly human? I think we do. I think Jacob does, and maybe, just maybe, so do I.